Close your eyes for a second. Imagine you're walking through a dense, steaming forest. The air is thick, it's warm, every breath feels almost heavy. And then you hear it, a low, papery buzzing. Not a bee, not a bird. You look up and something the size of a hawk shoots past your face. It has 6 legs, compound eyes, and wings that catch the light like stained glass. You just met Meganeura, and if you think that sounds terrifying, you're right. But here's the thing that should terrify you even more. This creature actually existed. It flew over real forests, hunted real prey, and dominated real skies 300 million years before you were born. This is the story of the largest flying insect that ever lived, and the bizarre, almost unbelievable reason it could exist at all. Let's start with the basics, because the basics alone are already insane. Meganeura was a genus of giant dragonfly-like insects that lived during the Carboniferous period, roughly 300 to 315 million years ago. Its name comes from Greek, meaning large-veined, which is a very polite way of describing the enormous, complex wing structure that made this creature look like something out of a fever dream. Now, when we say giant, we mean it. The wingspan of Meganeura monni, the most well-known species, measured around 65 to 70 centimetres. That's nearly 2.5 feet, wingtip to wingtip. Some estimates for close relatives push that even further. For context, a modern dragonfly has a wingspan of maybe 10 centimetres on a good day. Meganeura was roughly 7 times larger. It weighed somewhere between 100 and 150 grams. That sounds light until you realise that's heavier than most modern songbirds. And it wasn't just big, it was built. The body was long and segmented, the legs were barbed for gripping prey mid-flight, and those compound eyes, the same design dragonflies still use today, gave it nearly 360-degree vision. It could see almost everything around it in all directions at once. This was not a gentle giant. This was an apex predator of the skies. To understand Meganeura, you have to understand the world it came from. Because the Carboniferous period was not just a different time, it was almost a different planet. The continents were arranged differently. Most of the landmass that would eventually become Europe and North America was clustered near the equator, covered in vast, swampy forests. Think dense, think humid, think jungle cranked up to 11. These weren't forests like the ones we have today. They were dominated by enormous club mosses, tree ferns, and giant horsetails, some of them reaching 30 to 40 meters tall. And these forests were doing something remarkable. They were producing oxygen, a lot of it. Today, our atmosphere sits at about 21% oxygen. During the Carboniferous, estimates suggest that figure may have climbed as high as 35%. That's nearly twice what we breathe right now. The reason is fascinating. The trees of this era were dying and falling, but the bacteria and fungi that break down wood today hadn't fully evolved yet. So the dead organic matter just piled up, compressed, and kept releasing oxygen without anything consuming it. This created a world where fire could ignite more easily. Ancient charcoal deposits from this era are some of our clearest evidence of this oxygen spike, and where animals could grow to sizes we'd consider impossible today. This was Meganeura's home, and it was perfectly designed for something like it to thrive. So here's the central question. Why was Meganeura so big? And why don't we have giant insects today? The answer comes down to a quirk of insect biology that most people don't know about. And once you hear it, you'll never look at a fly the same way again. Insects don't breathe the way we do. They don't have lungs. They don't breathe through their mouths. Instead, they have a system of tiny tubes called tracheal that branch throughout their bodies, carrying oxygen directly to the cells. It's a brilliant system for small animals, but it has a fundamental limitation. The bigger the insect, the longer these tubes have to be. And the longer the tubes, the harder it is to push enough oxygen through them to fuel a large body. At modern oxygen levels, this system hits a ceiling. Insects simply can't grow beyond a certain size before their oxygen delivery system fails to keep up. That's why the biggest insects alive today are impressive, but still fundamentally small compared to what Meganeura achieved. But at 35% atmospheric oxygen, the math changes completely. With so much more oxygen in every breath of air, the system could support a much larger body. The ceiling lifted. Meganeura didn't evolve to be giant. It simply lived in a world where being giant was no longer impossible. Now, this is the dominant hypothesis, and it's well supported by the fossil record. But science is honest, and some researchers point out that it probably wasn't the only factor. The absence of large flying vertebrate predators, birds and bats didn't exist yet, meant there was no evolutionary pressure keeping insects small. When nothing is hunting you from above, there's no penalty for being enormous. Both pressures likely worked together. The oxygen gave the biology room to grow. The empty skies gave it a reason to. So what did a day in the life of Meganeura actually look like? Based on fossil evidence and comparison with modern dragonflies, which are themselves among the most efficient hunters in the animal kingdom, we can piece together a reasonable picture. Meganeura almost certainly spent a lot of time near water. Like modern dragonflies, it likely spent its larval stage in water, growing slowly before emerging as an adult. Those larvae, by the way, would have been formidable in their own right. Aquatic predators capable of taking on fish and amphibians. As an adult, Meganeura was a hunter. Its serrated, spiny legs were perfectly adapted for snatching prey out of the air and off branches. It likely hunted using the same ambush and intercept strategy modern dragonflies use, calculating the future position of prey and flying directly to that point rather than chasing it. Modern dragonflies have a hunting success rate of over 95%. Meganeura, built on the same design but scaled up dramatically, was almost certainly a devastating predator. The first Meganeura fossils were discovered in France in 1880, in a coal deposit near Commentry. A paleontologist named Charles Brongniart described the creature, and the scientific community's reaction was understandably one of disbelief. A dragonfly the size of a hawk? It sounded like mythology. But the fossils were real. The wing impressions were clear, and as more specimens turned up, the picture became undeniable. Related giant insects from the same period have since been found across Europe and North America, including the Meganeuropsis genus, which may have been even slightly larger. These finds confirmed that giant flying insects weren't a fluke. They were a feature of the Carboniferous world. The fossils are primarily preserved as impressions in coal, which makes sense given that coal itself is compressed Carboniferous organic matter. These creatures literally died and became embedded in the material their world produced. There's something poetic about that. Meganeura's reign didn't last forever. By the end of the Permian period, roughly 252 million years ago, the giant flying insects were gone. And the reasons connect directly to the same factors that made them possible. As the Carboniferous ended, the vast coal-producing forests began to collapse. The climate shifted. Oxygen levels dropped. As they did, the tracheal breathing system lost its advantage. Giant bodies became metabolically unsustainable. And around the same time, the vertebrate world was getting more interesting. Early reptiles were diversifying. Eventually, pterosaurs would take to the skies. The empty, predator-free sky that Meganeura had enjoyed for tens of millions of years began to fill with competition and with threats. The combination was fatal for the giants. Not in a sudden catastrophe, but in the slow arithmetic of evolution. Smaller insects survived better, bred faster, hid more easily, and required less oxygen. Over millions of years, the giants simply didn't make it to the next generation. And so the age of Meganeura ended not with a bang, but with the gradual return of a world where physics, once again, set limits on how big a flying insect could be. Meganeura survived for millions of years in a world that seems almost alien to us now. Thicker air, denser forests, skies full of creatures we have no living frame of reference for. It was perfectly adapted to a world that no longer exists. And when that world changed, it changed with it. But here's what I find remarkable. Every dragonfly you see today darting over a pond, hovering at the edge of a garden, carries traces of that ancient design. The compound eyes, the veined wings, the same aerial hunting strategy. The basic blueprint hasn't changed much in 300 million years, because it was already nearly perfect. Meganeura wasn't a monster. It was a masterpiece. One that the Earth spent hundreds of millions of years quietly building, and then, just as quietly, let go. And if the atmosphere had stayed just a little richer in oxygen, maybe, just maybe, they'd still be out there. Somewhere in those forests, watching. If you made it this far, honestly, thank you. These ancient creatures don't always get the attention they deserve, and I think they're worth knowing about. If this kind of deep dive prehistoric content is something you want more of, hit subscribe, because we're just getting started with the strange, enormous, and genuinely astonishing things that used to walk and fly on this planet. Drop a comment below which prehistoric creature do you want covered next. I read every single one. See you in the next one.